were beached, and that kind of came up and naturally died. They were from fishing about 100 years ago. The blue whale's the biggest animal that's ever been on planet Earth. And it was hunted to near extinction about 100 years ago. And we need to learn, from our mistakes in the past. One of the scientists on the boat said that man has messed up every fishery in the world, and Antarctica is like our last chance to do it correctly. So we're hoping for good legislation and good decisions to kind of save this part of the planet. And I know that's an interesting tone to end on after all this adventure stuff I was talking about, but this stuff is so important to me, and I'm hoping that we can, do something that's impactful with the story, that people can see this and actually, keep good eyes on people that are making the decisions that can keep these places in checks and balances. And that's everything I have today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I think we have time for a few questions from what I understand. Does anybody have any questions? Great. Did you have one? Wait, I think they're going to bring you a microphone.
Oh, sure. Hi, thanks for coming and talking. That was great. Just
thanks.
Curious about your camera gear. Do you worry about that when you go in these extreme environments?
I mean, you do. The camera gear always takes a hit, right? It's just like a soldier in the field. It has to work, and I'm pretty hard on it. But you learn different tricks over the years. Like in Antarctica, for instance, you never brought your camera gear into your tent. You would bring your batteries in, but you never brought your camera gear in. And the reason was because you'd get condensation, even like a difference in 10 degrees. And then that condensation would be ice when you took it outside, and it was a nightmare. We made that mistake a couple times. So you would actually leave all your gear outside, and it was fine. You'd bring your camera gear in, your batteries in, and we would boil like hot water, put it in an Nalgene bottle, build like a nest of jackets. You'd put all your batteries in there, and you'd throw that you'd make a little furnace, and that's how you'd keep things charged. And we had solar too, but solar was, you get a trickle charge, you get what you need, but you have to be pretty good at the power. So, yeah. But camera gear, oh yeah, it takes a hit all the time. Or there, wherever you're closer to. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Hey, my name is Laura Bisbee. Thank you so much for coming today and presenting. Sure. Your work is beautiful. Oh, I was wondering, what advice would you give aspiring photographers, videographers, from your perspective?
Man, I would say, meet and interact and make friends with people that you want to work with, right? Because photographers, videographers, we need stories. So I would say surround yourself with people that are of a collective mindset. They don't have to be photographers and videographers, but people that are passionate about whatever it is you're shooting and working on. And I think through those relationships, that's how you build. You need a product if you want to sell it, and your product is based around your little groups and the ideas you come up with and the people that can help you execute them. Yeah, sure. I think there was one back there.
Hi, Keith. We have a question from our stream on Facebook. Carrie on Facebook has a question from our kids who were here for your student matinee earlier today, and they wanted to know who takes the pictures of you, such as the boat video at the beginning and then when you're on the cliff.
Oh, sure.
Against the wall.
It's a mix. It's just people that I'm with. I don't get my picture taken that often. It's always kind of a treat when you do. It's like, oh, yeah. And so anyway, it's whoever you're with. It's kind of a mix, but it's usually your friends, and a lot of times it's just an iPhone photo, but you're grateful to have it, especially if you're in some crazy position. Thanks for the question. Down here.
Hi, thank you so much. That was really incredible.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I've just got a simple question. When do you edit?
Oh, man, after the shoot, I'm getting ready to, well, you know what? I edit a lot on shoots as well. If I'm on an expedition where power is a problem, you kind of have to wait. But if you're doing a shoot like this last shoot, we were on a boat. So at the end of every day, you're at least scrubbing through and taking a look. But outside of that, I'll get home and I'll just kind of grind it out and edit for the next couple weeks. And And photo is a lot easier than video, obviously. But yeah, I just edit when I can, tirelessly. Yeah, thank God I have a wife who understands my crazy schedule.
This is something real quick, fantastic work. Really
Thank you.
love it. This is something that my friends and I were talking about earlier that had come up in a different. You mentioned the kite that you lost, and you said, "Man, I got to pack my trash."
Sure.
How do y'all deal with bio waste?
Oh, man. So Antarctica is very strict. Now, I'll tell you if you want, but we had to we had like a big barrel, and that was the toilet, and it had to go out. So it was packed in and packed out. They're very strict, thankfully, right? Because things like that don't really decompose in those areas, hence the bird poop I talked about. That stuff just stays there, you know, it's too cold, it's preserved, so.
Thank you very much for your extraordinary talk and beautiful works.
Oh, thank you.
What is your next adventure? And I also wanted to know whether you encountered any life-threatening situations with wildlife.
I mean, the lion luckily didn't retract her claws. She was actually just playing. But I'm trying to think if I have had any. I don't think I've ever been in a scary death situation with an animal that I can think of. But my next big adventure is my honeymoon with my lovely wife. Yeah, we're going to Africa for a month. And so we postponed it to April. Yeah, and we can't wait.
Hi, Keith.
Hey, Gina.
Have you ever thought of just sitting on the couch, binge watching TV?
Oh, we do that. Oh, man. The next couple days, that's the plan. Yeah, I can't wait for that. Yeah. So, yes, I do often, actually.
Hi, Keith.
Hi.
2 quick questions. Did you ever get hurt again severely like you did the first time? And the second one is really disconnected from that. But when you're going out on assignment, do you try to visualize sort of what you're hoping to get? Do you sort of pre-story the story, or how do you approach getting the story that you come back with?
I'll answer that question first. And the answer is yes. I try to do as much research as I can in advance. But then there's a lot of serendipity, right? Because a lot of times I'll envision the situation as being different than it actually is in reality, and then you just have to be kind of flexible. But I try to go on with the game plan. When you're working for National Geographic, I'll be honest, it's high pressure, and I feel that pressure. You can't just go make basic pictures, right? You have to make pictures that they're standard here. It's like, it is the standard, right? And so, yeah, I do as much work behind the scenes as I can. I talk to people, I call people, I work with my editor and try to go out with a game plan before I'm in the field. And then again, you show up and you stumble across really cool things and you get ideas on the fly. So it's a little mix of both, but you try to do as much research on the front end as you can. And as far as injuries, I've never been that injured again, thankfully. But I've had my fair share of, like, you know, a little broken hand, or I think in Australia a couple years ago, I broke my hand rushing around trying to, like, set gear up, and I jumped down onto a log, and it just snapped. And I went, like, flying down, and I broke my hand, and I had to work for like 2 weeks with this broken hand. And things happen, you know, but I've never had a really bad injury like the one that I did, you know, just little bruises and scrapes and things like that.
Keith, we have another question from Facebook. A Mr. Mike Lebecki asks.
No.
Mike asks, what is your dream trip?
Oh, man, dream trip. Well, we got a couple cooking right now. My real dream trip is, I'm telling you, is Africa, because I don't have any work to do. It's 1 month in Africa with my wife. It's going to be amazing. But there's so many places I want to see still, and we have a really fun trip. Mike, thanks for the question, and I wish I had a better answer, but I've got a really fun dream trip coming up with him this summer. So, and he's so secretive, I don't want to even say where it is. I don't want to, like, break the Lebecki code, you know?
Hey, how are you doing?
Hi there.
So personally, I'm a climber, and seeing your videos and everything was really inspiring. What was like your favorite climbing area that you visited?
Oh man, that's a good question. There's so many good ones. I feel like you fall in love a little with each one. One place I really love and continue to go back to is the Verdun Gorge in France. That's a fantastic place, and I just love the approach there, what you get to do and the amount of adventure you get to have. And so much of it's right out of the car. Like you can drive and walk like 5 minutes and you're like at a cliff that's like 1,000 feet. And you can just throw a rope over and just climb the last pitch. It's cragging. You know how you go cragging? You climb like one pitch at a time. You go do it there, but you've got like 1,000 feet under you. And people go to do that. You just like cherry pick the top lines and there's wildlife there and there's nobody there. It's like crazy how vacant it is. That's a place that stands out right away, but there's so many places that I love. One more. It looks like we have one more question. How about this guy right here?
You talked about starting photography with a Pentax K1000, a fully manual camera. How important is it to people aspiring to become great photographers to learn about exposure control, to learn about manual shooting, to get beyond point and shoot?
I think it's important to have good technical aptitude with your camera. Learning about depth of field, but I'll be honest, cameras make it so easy these days. And I don't want to discount knowing technically what you're doing, because I'm a huge camera nerd, right? I love to find out every nuance about my camera, and I still use old traditional things like my spot meter and everything else. But the truth is I think cameras have come to a place now where you can get on that learning curve a little quicker, and then you can just focus on creativity, because that's really where the pictures are. They're in the creative part. And I mean, look at the photos we're seeing with people's iPhones these days. It's crazy, right? Amazing. I think the creative curve has never been higher because there's so many pictures being taken. And that's inspiring to me. I love that. But I would agree to your point. I think it's very important when you get like a real camera in your hand, knowing how to use it is important, right? Knowing how to work with light and not just take like whatever exposure the camera's telling you, but to actually start honing in. That's when your pictures start changing and kind of giving them a little more personality. So I think it's very important. Thank you, everybody. I think that's all the questions I can take.